Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about the latest studio album from Dodheimsgard entitled Black Medium Current. This is the sixth full-length studio album from this long-running extreme metal crew hailing from Oslo, Norway, originally starting off with a more straightforward, traditional Norwegian black metal sound and aesthetic. They soon began to incorporate influences from industrial and avant-garde and experimental music on stuff like the Satanic Art EP and 666 International, and have since transitioned into a full-blown avant-garde black metal band on records like Supervillain Outcast and a Umbra Omega. Their overall trajectory is similar to that of Enslaved in a lot of ways, though I would say that Dodheimsgard has been typically a little bit more angular and brutal. Especially on the aforementioned A Umbra Omega, which I would genuinely argue is one of the best avant-garde black metal records out there. With its dizzying flurries of chaotic, jazz-laced, blackened fury and its absolutely massive size and scale, it's definitely quite a beast of a record to tackle. That's for certain. That is for sure. Following that up would not be an easy task for anyone, but Dodheimsgard have more than risen to the occasion by putting out what I feel is their most introspective and expressive album to date. It is consistently emotionally straightforward and revealing and blunt, conveying strong feelings of sadness, darkness, dysphoria, anguish, and confusion. It's a very consuming and immense record, doing everything in its power to swallow you whole, to make you feel what it is feeling, what Dodheimsgard is feeling. And it's ultimately an aggravating but fascinating listen from start to finish. Quite possibly the best avant-garde metal record I've heard so far this year, and maybe one of the best metal records I've heard all year altogether. Opening track Et Smelter perfectly balances solemnity with full-blown fury by draping layers of atmospheric, almost heavenly choral vocals and triumphant synthesizer work overtop some raging classic black metal. Things slow down and get especially powerful and dramatic on the latter half of this song, as there's a bit of a Beauty and the Beast kind of vocal dynamic established, with some sneering, snarling black metal gutturals being contrasted with the more heavenly and omnipotent vocal work. It has this almost otherworldly religious kind of feel to it. Like, in my mind, I have this image of a man directly confronting his demons in a church by himself while rain and snow and hail pound away outside. Then there's It Does Not Follow, which ramps up the absurdity and intensity big time with some extremely technical, almost death metal shredding and progressions, and some weirder twists and turns that feel pulled from the realms of like psychedelic and alternative rock. The keyboards and synthesizers are incredibly versatile in this track, which I really love. They often pound away alongside the more aggressive guitars and percussion, but they can also be seen gliding alongside, transitional movements and softer sections and textures. Then there's Interstellar Nexus, which manages to sound like somebody having like a real emotional breakdown, while also making me want to like bust a move and groove and dance and vibe. Like, it has these totally miserable and agonizing vocal wails, the kind of shit that King Diamond might cook up after a total collapse in his mental health. But it also has like these legitimate grooves and beats and some like swelling synthesizers and these weird glitchy percussive bits near the very end. Like, it genuinely sizzles and sparkles and shines at times, and it also sounds like somebody having a really fucking bad day. It honestly kind of reminds me of what the Lion's Daughter were doing on their last studio album, Skin Show. I wonder if Dodheimsgard took influence from them, to be honest. One semi-modern experimental metal crew that I'm certain Dodheimsgard was paying attention to is Aranci Pazuzu, as is evidenced by Det Kam Kaldamork. Definitely one of the most urgent and brutal and extreme cuts on the record, but it's also loaded with weird psychedelic textures and progressive passages that would not at all be out of place on an Aranci Pazuzu record. Probably my favorite song on the record, though, would be the album's 11-minute gargantuan cut, Abyss Perhalian Transit, which is filled with so many different segments and movements and transitions that I could probably dedicate a massive chunk of this video to dissecting this song exclusively. It is slow-paced, droning, meditative, thought-provoking, transcendental, experimental black metal at its finest, folks. It will absolutely test your patience, but your patience will be rewarded, I promise you, as it is hauntingly beautiful. A very close runner-up, though, would be the album's closing number, Requiem Eternal, a piano-driven ballad with classical undertones drenched in heart and gloom and misery. A ballad being included on a black metal album, even an avant-garde black metal album, is a massive risk for a multitude of reasons that we don't have the time to get into, but Dodheimsgard absolutely rise to the occasion. They don't just knock that shit out of the park, they knock it into the motherfucking stratosphere. Love seeing some of the more classical influences on display here. Love how the majestic, heavenly backing vocals make this feel massive while still being a very skeletal and straightforward number. This thing is as warm and dark red and as full-bodied as a beautiful red wine. No doubt it was meant to be enjoyed with a bottle of beautiful red wine. There's really not a single moment of this record I'm not absolutely enthralled by. Dodheimsgard went above and beyond the call of duty with this thing. I am moved by it. I am excited by it. I'm honestly feeling a 5 out of 5 on this bad boy. I think it's perfect. Everything I want, everything I look for in metal is here. It's expansive, it's immersive, it's heart-wrenching, it's twisted and unpredictable. Like, it's genuinely really intelligent and creative, but also still really fucking brutal when it needs to be. I would have no issue recommending this album to literally anyone because it's fucking fantastic, but I feel like this is really meant more so for, like, people who love, like, avant-garde and experimental and progressive metal. Like, if your perception of metal doesn't go far beyond the likes of Metallica and Judas Priest, I'd recommend you steer clear. This might be a little too weird and crazy for you. There's just not a single thing about this record that doesn't work for me. You know, the musicianship, the performances, the production, which, might I add, does a great job at making everything feel massive and important, even in these really quiet and spacious moments. Easily one of my favorite things I've heard so far this year. 5 out of 5. I stand by it. Hell yes. You need to check this thing out, man. It's fucking perfect. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.